Hi, Movie Recap Zone here. Today, I'm going to explain a 2021 American science fiction and adventure movie called Clifford the Big Red Dog. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. The movie begins in an abandoned warehouse where a mother dog is taking care of her puppies. Suddenly, two officers come in and take them, separating the mother from her puppies. However, the men do not know that there is one bright red puppy hiding under the blanket. He tries to chase after them, but he is just too late and is left alone. Long story short, he manages to get out from the warehouse. Elsewhere in New York, Emily Elizabeth Howard has just received a scholarship and moves to a new school. Until now, she still doesn't have any friends. She lives in an apartment whose owner is very demanding and talkative. Emily's mother, Maggie, who works as a paralegal, is a very busy person. Emily shares that she is still getting teased by one of his classmates, Florence, because she is small and a scholarship grantee. To cheer her daughter up, Maggie says that unique people are the ones that change the world. A few moments later, she informs her daughter that she has to leave her with a sitter for a work emergency. Emily is okay with whoever the sitter is, as long as he is not Uncle Casey. On the other side, Uncle Casey, Maggie's younger brother, is homeless and lives in a van. An officer shows up, telling him to move away and pay some fines. He ignores her and rushes to an office for a job interview. Upon arrival, he approaches a woman who tells him that he is an hour late. He then leaves the office with disappointment and sadness, breaking the company's logo. Emily goes out around the neighborhood to collect cans and bottles for her school's fundraiser. While doing it, she meets Malik the magician, Mrs. Cullerman the cranky neighbor, lawyer couple Mr. and Mrs. Jarvis, and bodega owner Sanchez. Emily returns to the apartment and is very surprised and also disappointed when she finds out that Casey is going to be the sitter. After telling Casey everything that must be done, Maggie leaves. Back to the Red Dog, he starts exploring the city, finding himself in the middle of traffic. He arrives at a park where the red puppy meets Mr. Bridwell, who decides to bring the puppy with him. The next day, Casey takes Emily out into the city where she gets excited as she spots a tent for rescued animals. They enter the tent and discover several animals like a rabbit, sloth, and a snake. They are then welcomed by the owner, who turns out to be Mr. Bridwell. He brings them to the little red puppy. Emily is very excited and it seems that the puppy also likes her. Emily asks Mr. Bridwell how big the dog will grow, and he says that it will depend on how much she loves him. Although she instantly falls in love with the red puppy and begs Casey's permission to bring him home, Casey rejects the request and both of them leave the tent. Emily then arrives at school where she is teased again by Florence for collecting cans for the charity. A few moments later, Owen, the geeky student who has a slight crush on Emily, suddenly appears and supports Emily, saying that she is awesome. In class, Emily is embarrassed when her plastic bag full of cans breaks open and spills the cans in front of everyone. She then returns home with sadness and embarrassment. Upon arrival at her apartment, she is very surprised when she finds the red puppy magically having stowed away in her backpack. After several attempts, Emily decides to name him Clifford after the puppy shows the sign that he loves the name. Clifford is hungry and sneaks out outside Emily's bedroom. He steals Casey's meat and he is very shocked when he sees the little puppy. After a long negotiation, Casey allows Clifford to stay for one night and she has to return him back to Mr. Bridwell since pets aren't allowed in the building. Before sleeping, she wishes that they could be big and strong so nobody will ever hurt them while one of her tears rolls into Clifford's nose. The next morning, Emily awakens and is very shocked to see that Clifford has become gigantic. However, he is still the same Clifford that obeys Emily. Emily tries to explain the situation to Casey while the giant Clifford shows up and freaks Casey out. They try to find a way to deal with him, but Mr. Packard, the building superintendent, suddenly comes by to fix the dishwasher. Long story short, after a large effort to hide the dog, Mr. Packard finishes his job and leaves the apartment. Casey suggests Emily to take Clifford to the vet and then try to find Mr. Bridwell to return the giant dog. They try to hide the dog in Casey's van, but Owen suddenly shows up, asking why she didn't show up at school, and unintentionally attracts people around them who start taking pictures of Clifford. Clifford spots a giant plastic bubble, thinking that he can fetch it. He immediately runs towards it and chases the bubble until he pops it. At a biotech company, Life Agro, CEO Zach Tieran and his team are developing a formula to make food grow bigger. However, the experiments don't show any progress. Even though it's progressing, the results are not what they expected, which makes Tieran furious. Clifford becomes viral and his assistant, Colette, shows Tieran pictures of 10-foot Clifford on the social media. He thinks Clifford can be the solution to save his company. He plans to inject an ID chip inside Clifford's body, thus he can claim him as the company's property. His team discovers that Emily is seen frequently with the dog, so he orders them to trace her. They arrive at Emily's apartment and Tieran reveals to the superintendent that she has been keeping an animal in the building for the whole time. Emily, Owen, and Casey eventually manage to bring Clifford to the vet, who is surprised to see a 10-foot dog in front of him. While examining Clifford, the vet asks Casey to help him take Clifford's temperature and animal temperature taking place, but he refuses to do so. In the end, the vet determines that Clifford is a very healthy dog. Emily and Owen talk to Lucille, an employee at the clinic, who knows Bridwell. She shares that all animals that were given by him have helped the owners out in their hard times. However, she can't help them to locate Mr. Bridwell. Emily remembers that Bridwell just set up his tent at school yesterday, thus she suggests they go to the school to find the paperwork that contains information about him. Casey manages to distract the administrator while Owen steals the information from the computer. In the cafeteria, Florence confronts Emily and attempts to bully her again until Clifford shows up and becomes the main attention to the students. This time, Emily fights back by saying that she is envious because the dog is taking away the attention from her. Clifford then humiliates Florence by licking her, covering her in drool. She runs away as all the other students laugh at her. They then return to the apartment, only to find out that they have been evicted by Packard because he found that they had a dog in there. Outside, Mr. Jarvis is installing a new satellite antenna and suddenly slips. He loses his grip and falls, but Clifford manages to rescue him. People there are very happy with the dog. A few moments later, Owen finds a letter and manages to locate Mr. Bridwell, who will be at a hospital tomorrow. Tieran and his team arrive and attempt to take Clifford back, claiming that Clifford is the company's dog. Tieran even offers money to Emily, but she refuses to take the money. Albert, staff of Life Agro, manages to inject the ID chip. Clifford runs away while Raoul and Casey fight Tieran's men. Owen and Emily hide Clifford in Casey's van. Emily then drives the van, even though she is not allowed to, and manages to transport him into Owen's apartment. Casey arrives and is surprised when he finds out that Owen is actually a rich boy. Owen's dog appears and awkwardly wants to smell Clifford's butt. Clifford tries to play with him but ends up licking him and almost swallowing him. On the other side, Tieran goes to the police and speaks to Chief Watkins, claiming that Clifford escaped from Life Agro and he is a dangerous animal, thus he must be captured immediately. A few moments later, the police make a public statement, offering a reward for Clifford's capture. Owen's dad just returns home when he finds a 10-foot red dog wandering around in his building. He then offers Emily help by transporting Clifford to China, where he would be safe and treated. However, Emily rejects the offer because Clifford is the best part of her life and she is not willing to abandon him. As a last resort, Casey accepts Emily's plan to go to the hospital tomorrow to find Mr. Bridwell. The next day, they go to the hospital where they find Mr. Bridwell's bow tie. However, a patient tells them that the man they are looking for has just passed away, which makes Emily sad. Left with no option, Emily reluctantly agrees to let Clifford go to China. She says her last words to the dog, apologizing for not being able to save him. The next day, Maggie sees news of Clifford with Emily's image, causing her to rush home. Casey and Emily learn that the man who passed away at the hospital was not Mr. Bridwell. Owen shows up and tells them that Mr. Bridwell's tent is currently in the park where Emily met Clifford for the first time. However, news reports that Clifford was captured and was sent to the Life Agro's lab. Knowing that they will hurt Clifford, the trio and other people in the bodega, who offer their help, immediately head over to Life Agro. While Tieran is giving a public statement, the gang sneak into Life Agro's building. However, they trigger the fire alarm, causing all test animals to be set free and creating chaos. They arrive at the room where Clifford is being kept, manage to knock the guard down, and set Clifford free. Emily and Clifford immediately rush to the park while the experiment animals take revenge upon the scientists. Casey grabs a reporter's mic and reveals the truth to the public, saying that Tieran has been lying and Clifford belongs to Emily. Maggie sees the news and immediately heads over to the park. Long story short, after dodging the police and Tieran's men, they finally arrive at the park where Mr. Bridwell has been waiting for them. Emily asks for the old man's help, but he states that it was Emily's love that made him so big and there is no way to make him small again. A few moments later, the police and Emily's friends arrive while park visitors gather as they are amazed by Clifford. Mr. Bridwell suggests Emily to speak up. She eventually delivers an impassioned speech to the crowd about how she and Clifford are different. She states that being different is what makes them special, and it doesn't mean they are harmful to anyone. The crowd agrees and supports her to keep Clifford with her. However, Tyrone suddenly shows up and attempts to reclaim Clifford from Emily, but when Tyrone tells the police to check the ID chip on Clifford, the scanner reveals that Clifford belongs to Emily. Tyrone is left humiliated and the crowd is allowed to get closer to the dog. At the end of the movie, Emily and Maggie are allowed to stay in Mr. Packard's apartment, while Casey finally gets a job. The city then also decides to build a giant dog house for Clifford. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hit that like button if you did, subscribe if you're new. And at last, I'll say stay well, stay safe, thanks.